And we are back. Vin and Dave's Destination Unknown. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. So we are in a different location.
We are. A super top secret location.
We're in the Cointext office. We are having some wine this evening. We've moved locations. So this may end up being a more personal, permanent, I should say. I haven't even started into the wine yet. This may end up being a little more permanent location. So you're hearing a little bit of bounce in the background. We'll get that figured out. But I think it will end up being very, very cool being in this spot. What are we doing? This wine today is from our friend Jeff. He dropped this by.
This is interesting, honestly. So Monte Faustino, and I'm going to try to get this right, Amarone della Valpolicella. I'm assuming.
I don't even know what like the varietal is. I can't tell any of that. It's all in Italian.
I'm not even sure what year it is.
Can you tell any of that?
Oh, 2009. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Jeez.
Yeah, he said it was good. This stuff is really, really interesting.
Yeah, and he was correct. It is fantastic.
It's very good. It's very good.
That is.
And then what's the other one?
Excellent.
What's the other one there?
So this one, a bit easier to pronounce. Pellicero Long Now. And this is 2013. Still have no idea, what the varietal is here, but it is definitely. It smells great. We haven't tried it yet, but it definitely smells good.
Well, and it'll have a little bit of a chance to breathe.
Yeah. So
he brought those over. He dropped those by, so that was very nice. Jeff is here in New Hampshire, one of the Nashua Liberty folks. So that was nice. But if people want to be sponsors themselves, of course, they can go to vinarmani.com/wine. That'll take you to wink.com, and you can do a gift certificate. You can get $20 off of signing up if you want to sign up and do their little palate quiz and join the wine club. You'll get $20 off by going to vinarmani.com/wine. Helps support us, helps give us wine, which helps the conversation.
Absolutely.
So
I'm not sure how Jeff smuggled these out. I'm hoping it wasn't, watch style, if you've seen that movie. So,
I mean, I haven't had Italian wine from Italy in quite a while. So thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much. So today, I'm getting headphone noise. Today, our topic is the art of hash war. We took a little snow day. We took a little week off.
We were snowed in. Snowden.
I don't even, apropos of nothing. Snowden did have some comments about cryptocurrency this week, so that's rather interesting. He said what was the Snowden? He said the notable quote was, "There's no let's be evil button on Bitcoin."
Right. Yes. I did see that.
But the question is there or is there not a let's be evil button on Bitcoin? Because as he was saying that, we are in the midst of a hash war.
Yes.
We talked about it, the prelude to it on our last show.
Yep.
But that was before the hash war. Then we took a week off during the hash war, which started November 15th. So if people want to go back and check out the prequel episode, they can go back and check that out.
Yep. I think we did a very good job, in hindsight, of kind of assessing the situation as it was at that point in time. And, I don't know. I think we made some pretty good calls on how things were going to play out.
Okay, so what people have been interested in is that there has been it's been a bit of a black box as to the first thing that we learned from a hash war is there's not a lot that you could see about what was going on at this point. CoinDance. So basically, if it wasn't for CoinDance really putting together a sort of graphical representation. So with every block that came in, they were showing what the total hash rate was between each of the two implementations and where the blocks were at and who was leading and who was behind. Without that visualization, it would have been very, very hard for people to know exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
And then luckily, each of the two camps had a live stream going on the whole time, which that in and of itself, we can get into talking about the differences between the two live streams, because I think the differences between the way that those two live streams were pulled off and sort of the way that the content was presented says everything about the two camps. It was very instructive in that. So
That's awesome. So I didn't see
definitely talk
either
about
of them.
that.
So
there's some really interesting parts that were clipped out, and obviously people have got them up on YouTube and whatnot. So that was interesting. But then there was a lot of stuff happening in the background. So even in the lead up, there were obviously private channels of people talking, a lot of on the developer channels. But then I was also privy to some private channels of some of the people who were, let's just say, the main belligerents in this thing, and hearing the different things about what was going on. So we can recap. So do you want to recap what we went over last time? You want me to do it? What do you want? How do you want to do this?
So
I just don't want to be talking the entire time through this.
Why? You have a lovely voice. You should talk often.
Okay, fair enough. Well, but then when I'm talking, I can't drink.
It's true, and I usually end up ahead on the drinking game because
exactly.
I just drink faster. It's just it's a gift. So what I would say is, why don't I give the hash war from my perspective?
That would be great,
and then have you fill in the blanks,
yes,
because there's a lot of information that I just don't have.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so. In my experience, what had happened was we had Team SV versus Team ABC.
That's right.
And Team SV had this almost religious zeal to them. They thought, oh, we are righteous in our pursuit of...
SV standing for Satoshi's vision, so
Correct.
That tells you everything you need to know right there. Yeah.
Right, because they it's like saying God's vision. It's
right,
like,
exactly.
Really? So you're going to just interpret this in whatever way you want and call it Satoshi's vision. So they had basically not only said, okay, we are going to leverage the upcoming planned fork in order to, do something positive or whatever. They're like, here's what's going to happen. We're going to take this fork and we are going to force everyone to comply with our model of doing things.
Right.
And if you don't comply, we will bankrupt you. We'll put you out of business. It will be impossible to do business unless you follow our fork, our vision.
Correct.
Our model. And this, rightly so, upset a lot of people, because what crypto really is a consensus of the people that, and the participants of the network, basically.
That's right.
So you have the participants of the network, and it's the general consensus that drives it forward. And now all of a sudden you have this outsider who is in partnership with a very vocal, outspoken, some would say controversial. Well, I think everybody would say controversial.
Yeah.
Some would say misguided
Yeah.
individual. And, so now we have this prophet, right, who is being backed up by outside money and saying, we're going to enforce our will upon everyone.
Right.
And so it no longer is consensus. It's what I want it to be.
Right.
And people were outraged by this, and they should have been. It's not the right thing to do, especially in this community. So then the 15th happened, the fork happened, and they attempted their forced takeover. And they met resistance that I don't believe they expected.
Right.
Although they came out and said, we have anticipated every contingency. We know exactly how this is going to go.
Right.
We have the ultimate power. No one dare stand against us. But yet people did. And those people who stood against them were victorious in the end.
That's right.
So we had this outside influence, with this controversial prophet figure, and they said, we are going to demolish everybody. Everybody else, with the help of some notables. I mean, we did have Roger Ver, and we had
Jihan Wu.
Yep. So we had some big names on the ABC side of things who fought back in a very visible way and basically repelled the attack.
Yep.
And now, we're at the point where ABC is the victorious chain.
It's BCA. Well, so the whole idea of the hash war was, this is the part that is, I'm realizing even SV, I don't think, had a full grasp on this. And I'm like, wow, was I the only person that had the whole grasp on how this was, how you win this thing?
Probably.
Because
I'm just going to throw that out there. Probably.
Because what I was trying to explain to everybody for a long time was, look, the ticker is what's all important. And the ticker, see, that's a symbol that is assigned by the exchanges, but those exchanges will assign that ticker based on whatever they want to base their metric on. Sure. And as a matter of fact, so you had the BCH ticker, the Bitcoin Cash BCH ticker. The ticker is more important than the name. Mm-hmm. Much more important, because that's what you're going to be if you're getting your exchange rates. Even if you go, Google, straight on the front of Google, if you go USD to BTC, it pops that up, right? So it's like those three letters, the USD, what's the Mexican? I think it's MXP or whatever. The EUR. Those the ticker, the currency ticker is all important for global trade.
Yeah,
and that ticker is associated with a particular network and the token of that particular network. This whole thing had to be a battle for the ticker, because otherwise we'll just split and get a new ticker. Mm-hmm. Right? You'll get assigned a new ticker, which they have at this point, BSV. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing was, this is a battle for the ticker. Okay, so then what does that mean? Well, then that means it's a battle for, and I said this weeks before the hash war, I said, this is a battle for the hearts and minds of exchanges. That's what this has to be. And so then the question becomes, okay, what are you doing in terms of winning the battle for the exchanges? So I think SV, how they approached it is in this very weird, and I think you making the religious analogy is correct, that they were like, and it's very strange, and I don't know whether they're believing their own bullshit or whether this is their really true believer fundamentalists, and even Calvin Ayre has now fallen into this, or whether this is him rationalizing. But I had always thought that I was like, well, they're not so dumb as to believe that just by throwing hash, creating the chain, they say the longest chain, that's not actually what. That doesn't mean like the most blocks. It means the most accumulated proof of work. So it means the difficulty at a certain level, etc. So they were under the impression that, if we just have I don't know if they're under that impression or if this is a rationalization, but what's coming out now that they not appear to have lost, now that they have not gotten the ticker, is, well, what makes it the actual chain is that it's the one with the most proof of work, which they don't actually have at this point. But then they're saying, so we can see what their plan of attack was. Their rationalization for losing displays their plan of attack, which was exactly what I said that it was going to be. It was going to basically be split the chain, have two separate blockchains going, and then attack the ABC blockchain such that exchanges couldn't reopen. So all the exchanges, BitPay, even Coinbase, the major exchanges, even Ledger, I believe Trezor as well, some other services shut down. Mm-hmm. We had to do some very special little magic in the background of Cointext so that we were sort of working off both chains and reading from and writing to both chains at the same time, and making sure that same sort of index thing was going this whole time, because we didn't want to shut down. And I really just wanted to see, like, what does this look like, right? I didn't want to sit out of it. I wanted to take the opportunity and be like, oh, well, is there what does this look like? Can it actually be done? Like, I thought that was important too. For sure. Yeah, and there was that was how there were a lot of internal channels, because there were a lot of developers thinking about this. Some people sort of came I would say, made a name for themselves during this in terms of on the app developer side, keeping services up and running, right? Creating middle services and verification and validation services and all of this that were in a very prototype stage, but that we were all like kind of picking and choosing and trying to use these things. So it was a really cool sort of community thing. But I think what SV didn't count on was, as you say, it was this prophet type dude, Craig Wright, with his church, the Cult of Craig, and being backed by this big money dude. So in this way, you almost have the analog of the Muhammad story, because it was in that he was backed by. So his first wife was Khadijah, and she was basically the wealthiest woman in Mecca, and that he started out as a caravan driver for her. And then, they ended up together, but she ended up being his first follower, and she basically bankrolled Islam in the early days. She bankrolled him, when he got kicked out and moved, everybody moved, and so she was the first Muslim. And you kind of have that with Calvin, a little bit, that he's kind of Craig's Khadijah in a way, the first follower, and so he's bankrolling this thing. And as I'm seeing his writing, because he's been doing some tweeting, he's written some editorials recently in CoinGeek, which is his news outlet. I'm seeing that he's kind of a true believer.
Oh, yeah.
It appears to be that he is following the tenets of this fundamentalist Bitcoin religion that they've basically started, this cult. And it's a legit cult, because you read the things that they're writing and talking about, and it's like, well, this doesn't even make any sense. And I think they're even disconnected, because what they didn't count on was that the exchanges were against them for the most part. You have some exchanges that are like BTC maximalists, so they're haters of Bitcoin Cash. So they were hoping that SV would take down Bitcoin Cash. You had a lot of that. That was interesting. But for the most part, exchanges were, what did exchanges want? Exchanges wanted to be able to reopen. And they wanted ABC to win. They wanted that chain to be stable. And so ABC was putting out these secret versions, these secret patches that they were getting out to the major miners, they were getting out to the exchanges, and the exchanges were running them. And what the patches basically were doing was it prevented SV from doing blockchain reorganization and rolling the chain back. So they were secretly shadow mining. They had devoted all this hash power, and they were secretly building their own chain and not broadcasting it. And their plan was that they were going to build that chain, and then they were going to start adding on hash power, overtake ABC, get a block, and then they were going to roll the chain all the way back. And then they were going to control the chain, and then all the ABC miners would follow them. But ABC put in something called a checkpoint, which was one of Satoshi's ideas. When he was worried about a 51% attack in the early days, he put in these checkpoints that would basically say, okay, you can only follow, it's almost like a new Genesis block, that it says, this block has to exist in order for you to continue building on a chain. So someone can only roll the chain back to the point where the checkpoint is.
Okay.
So they put in a checkpoint at the point of the split. So at that point, they basically, it was automatic, like the split is permanent, this is what's going to happen. Now, the exchanges were willing to run that, because the exchanges don't want to get reorged and lose all of that. So you figure, I've deposited money, and now the exchange loses it and I get to double spend it. Like, the exchange doesn't want that. So the exchange is looking, and they're like, wow, these dudes can you stop these guys? Like, that's what they're reaching out and asking ABC. Like, can you stop these guys?
Right.
Because if you can't stop them, we can't give you the ticker and we can't reopen.
Yeah. Yep. It's interesting because so we had the SV side very publicly stating their strategy. Here's what we're going to do.
They said they were going to reorg exchanges. Craig Wright said it.
Yeah. He said it. He also said, basically how much money they were going to spend on it, how long they were going to do it for. He gave away everything, as far as his strategy, which is the opposite of what you actually want to do in a war. In a war, the art of war is deception, right? You really want.
Sun Tzu says it in the first pages.
Yeah.
War is all about deception.
It is all about deception. So when you are weak, you want your enemy to think you're strong.
That's
when
right.
you're strong, you want them to think you're weak.
Right.
And so we had SV being very public about, here's everything we're going to do, when we're going to do it, blah, 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 blah. Right. We knew the dates. We knew the mechanisms. We knew the strategy.
Yep.
ABC, they were like, yeah, we're not going to tell anybody about this. We're going to do all this in secret. We're going to do all our preparation. And then when the attack comes, because the attack is going to come on this particular day, in this particular way, it's like, it's like Sun Tzu's dream, right? It's like, oh, okay, the enemy's going to tell me everything they're going to do and when they're going to do it. We got it. Let's go.
So some little, and just to throw this out there, just so that's in there for history. So I was reached out to. I'm not going to say by whom, but it was someone very sort of high up on the ABC. It was a notable belligerent on the ABC side, who after I did my Coming Hash War video, which got a lot of views, reached out to me and said, "Can I have the transcript? Because we are going to translate this into Chinese."
Wow.
Because the Chinese miners, we're going to subtitle it. We're going to send it to all the Chinese miners because they need to see this. Because they aren't quite getting what's going on. Because there was a language barrier.
Sure.
With what Craig was doing, right? So Jihan Wu speaks very good English, and he hates Craig. But there's more people. I mean, I believe he's the co-chairman of the board of Bitmain. But it's like, there's a language difference there. It's a cultural chasm, right? And so for them also, I think the sort of idea of it's a messianic cult. That's what it is. It's a messianic cult. And that doesn't really translate in the East,
right?
In quite the same way. That's really a Western. The messianic cult is a very Western concept,
right?
And especially understanding sort of the danger of it is not really a thing that they've got, or at least that they see as being of a significant danger. So my video got translated into Chinese, and what I was basically being told was, the developers on the ABC side, the communication that was coming to me was, we know what they're going to do. We know how to stop it. What we don't have right now is we don't have the support from the individuals who would need to do this. They don't quite yet believe it. So really it was like, we can stop them and we know what they're doing. And it was just a matter of what the X factor was, are these key individuals going to step up to the plate? I was skeptical that Jihan Wu would fight because they're in the middle of an IPO. Turns out he fought. I was skeptical of Roger Ver that he was going to fight just because he had been so quiet. But now, and I don't know whether or not it was because I called him out, but it was the very next day after I called him out in a video about his silence, and I mean, I was a little over the top with calling him out, but if that was what did it, then that's great. But then the next day he comes out and he reads this email. Have you seen this video and the email from Craig? It's a lunatic. It's a lunatic fucking email. I'm gonna pull it up because this email is so fucking crazy to where it's like, I think this was, let's see, Veer email Craig Wright. Let's see, Craig Wright. Let's see. So
while you're pulling that up,
here I've got it here.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yep. He says, he read this on it. He was like, I don't really know. I don't really know what I'm going to say. This is going to be stream of consciousness, but I just, I have to tell people. So this was the day after I called out Roger in a video. So this is from Craig Wright to Roger Ver, and the subject is ABC. I can't do a Craig Wright accent, but I'll read it with the same sort of attitude. If you want a war, I will do 2 years of no trade. Nothing. In the war, no coin can trade. If you want ABC, you want shit coins. Welcome to bankruptcy. It was nice knowing you. Bitcoin will die before ABC shits on it. I will see BCH trade at 0 for a few years. Will you? Side with ABC, you hate Bitcoin. You are my enemy. You have fucking no idea what that means. You will. I am Satoshi. Have a nice life. You will now discover me when pissed off. And no, you could have had proof. Your choice. Fuck you, Craig.
Wow, I'm glad we didn't, see him assume his final form. I mean, wow, like power level 9,000 stuff there.
But I think that turned the tide. Because everybody realized, oh, no. This guy has to be stopped right fucking now.
Yeah. He's
right now.
He's just over the edge. I mean, he's lost all sense of reality at that point. Mm-hmm. If he's sending that email, he's
now, mind you, Roger had never said anything bad about Craig. Mm-hmm. Roger was the last holdout on saying anything bad about Craig. What did Roger do? All Roger did was Bitcoin.com announced that all of their services would remain following Bitcoin ABC, running Bitcoin ABC and Bitcoin Unlimited, which is what they had been doing. Mm-hmm. So it's like Craig's pissed because Roger doesn't have his entire infrastructure rebuilt to utilize this piece of software that's basically untested. It's only like a few there's only like 12 or 13 commits after they like forked it from an old version of ABC. So, and Roger's going to turn his back on all of these people who are developing these implementations that are running the ABC rule set. It's like, this is crazy.
Do what I say.
That pissed off Craig.
Yeah, well, so Craig is like, do what I say because I say it, and don't ask questions, or I'm going to be mean to you in email. Basically, that's his deal.
Well, and the welcome to bankruptcy.
Yeah. Wow.
I will do 2 years of no trades. Will you? So basically, they lost. Mm-hmm. And as you say, the main reason why they lost was because they telegraphed everything that they were going to do.
Yeah, they did the opposite of everything in the Art of War book.
Yeah, had they not first declared a hash war, right? Because that's what I think everybody that got them to start to thinking, and maybe I was one of the few people in the space who really was like, maybe this isn't just maybe these aren't just words, like because you don't, especially some of the things that Calvin was doing and the way that they were presenting, preparing mind and body before the hash war and all this. And that's what really got me to thinking, like, what does that mean? Like, what are they saying? What are they trying to communicate? It's a war. Okay, how would you fight a war with hash? Like, how would you do that? And this is how they did it, but they were not prepared.
No, and I think that it was, so one of the fundamental tenets is know your enemy, and you'll win like half the battles. Mm-hmm. Know yourself, you'll win like half the battles. If you know your enemy and yourself, you'll win 100%. Yeah. If you don't know either, you're not going to win anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think they thought they knew themselves. They certainly didn't know their enemy. and it worked out just the way it should have worked out because they didn't know what they were doing. They came in full of bluster and full of confidence, but they really underestimated the ability of everyone to fight back and resist what it was that they were doing. And having now, I believe Roger invested like 300,000 BCH, or he transferred it to an exchange to fund some.
We don't know whether that was Roger, whether that was Jihan. It's hard to know, but I think
there was a big transfer, though.
Well, it was he brought in an amazing amount of hash power. Like he just, and they've been complaining, well, that was rented hash. That was rented hash, and I'm like, okay, and like, I thought this was capitalism. Like, does it matter if you're building a hotel, whether you rented the backhoe or whether you own the backhoe? I mean, sometimes renting the backhoe, if you only need it for 2 weeks, is going to make you more money and be more profitable than buying the backhoe outright. Any capitalist knows that.
Yep. I loved your tweet about these damn colonialists won't fight with proper etiquette. It's like we're all lined up in formation and they're coming at us from the trees. That's what was it was amazing to me to see somebody engaged in a war complaining about the tactics on the other side.
Well, that's what the Redcoats, they were complaining about the way the Americans fought.
It's crazy. Like, okay, if you're going to come in and you're going to say, we will bankrupt you, you have no chance, we're going to demolish you. Yeah. And then the other person resists and you're like, oh, you're not fighting fair.
Yeah, you kidding me? You cheated. So their line now is, which is a very interesting line, but it says, I think people dismiss it it's a folly to dismiss it because there's a lot to learn from it about like what's coming in this space. And maybe what's already been in the space, but these guys are just the quintessential version of it. To where they said, and the line that's coming from their camp now is that basically because things were done that they didn't expect to be used as defenses. Yeah. Now, mind you, rented hash, well, that's a normal part of the ecosystem. Nice Hash is a company. Anybody can go and rent hash today from them.
Yeah, Genesis Mining is another one.
You can rent hash.
Yeah.
That's just the thing. You can rent hash. So, rented hash. Okay. Then the checkpointing. Well, Satoshi was the first one to do the checkpointing. And there's even the Bitcoin Talk forum post where he goes, yeah, I think I'm going to put a checkpoint in every single time that I do a new release.
Wow, it's surprising that Craig didn't remember writing that.
Yeah. Satoshi? Then Bitcoin Core did it a couple times. ABC had been doing it they did it with the last hard fork. So the thing was, it was just like, they just missed this. This was just an aspect of, and it's not even, it's like such a side thing, But the idea that this could be used as a defense, they hadn't thought about that. And because they hadn't thought about that, they had this whole plan laid out. But now that it's been implemented, now they have to say, oh, using the checkpointing is now... you're no longer operating under Nakamoto consensus, which is a weird thing to say, to use that term anyway, because clearly Satoshi never used the term Nakamoto consensus.
No.
There's not even a, agreed upon, it's kind of like a little bit of a slang term. It's jargon. There's not even an agreed upon definition for Nakamoto consensus. But Nakamoto consensus, I think, is just whatever they say it is.
Sure. Oh, just like everything all along the way has been, whatever they say it is. It's fascinating. It is really fascinating that we have a modern day. I mean, Sun Tzu could never have anticipated, the internet. The blockchain,
no.
What's going on. But the fundamental concepts are exactly the same as they were.
Yeah.
And one side did everything wrong and they lost. So weird.
It's, One interesting thing about this. So we had the hash war. Simultaneous to that, you have this massive market drop. So we know that there was dumping going on from both sides to be able to pay for all of this to take place.
Sure.
And there are people, and I've been seeing it, and it's crazy. There are people who would like to dismiss that the drop in price was due to the hash war, which is crazy to me, especially considering that the greatest drop in price was BCH.
Well, when you look at any currency war, I mean, if you're talking about the U.S. dollar versus the yen, for example.
Trade wars and all that.
Yeah. I mean, the price and the exchange rates fluctuate based on what's going on with the currency. This is a huge deal in cryptocurrency. Therefore, if the price had not fluctuated, that would have been a bigger story.
Yeah, something would have been wrong.
Right. That the price fluctuated and it dropped, that like any economist or most economists would say, yeah, that's totally expected.
So there have been some stories, and I've read a couple of them, that are absolutely heartbreaking. One of the things about Bitcoin Cash was that it had turned into definitely the charity coin. So you had things like Eat BCH. There were complaints that yours.org had kind of turned into this. So yours.org is kind of like a medium, or it's a blogging site. It was based on Bitcoin Cash, now is based on Bitcoin SV, and also and Money Button was another thing. But what it had sort of turned into was they had said it's like people begging for money. People had basically figured out that like, oh, these people in the Bitcoin Cash community are like super empathetic, generous. It was the moral coin, right? So there was like the science side that kind of went with BT. This is how Chris DeRose has described it. There was like the scientific, those people sided with BTC in the split. And then the sort of the moral, which is why you have Roger Ver, right? The moral side, the people who are more empathetic, they went off with Bitcoin Cash. And I think that has been the case, that it has been much more empathetic. It's a much more open and welcoming community, especially for people who are non-technical. And so people figured out, enough people, I guess, figured out that they could go on and basically like write their sob stories being in a third world country or whatever, and that people on yours or with the Money Button would give to them. But I have read some heartbreaking ones of people who were basically like, yeah, I was kind of surviving off these little donations from people, and now, and my family, whatever, people in Eastern Europe, Africa, Central and South America, and they're like, well, now this has fallen apart, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like this is, and we want to have this adoption. We want to bring this to the world. I want people to be living on cryptocurrency. I mean, my business, we take our revenue in cryptocurrency. This bear market has been murder on our initial investment, but luckily we got out before before it was catastrophic. When we saw this hash war coming, we got out of BCH and into BTC, and then we got out of that and into fiat. Still taking some damage, but not as much damage as we certainly could have. And I'm just looking like, wow, hash wars are a thing now, and we got to figure out a way to prevent these things before they happen, or to mitigate them, because otherwise, the next time around, there's going to be way more people whose lives depend on the price of these tokens. And there's going to be a wipeout, and there's going to be some real consequences for people who are just hanging on by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah. And the next time it might not be, a wacko with a billionaire backer. Right. It might actually be a foreign government. Right. It could be a terrorist organization. Who knows? But it could be somebody a lot smarter, a lot better, and a lot more versed in the art of war than, the current combatants.
Well, which is the reason why I am actually a huge supporter of what ABC did. So now the newest version, you can only roll the chain back in a reorganization. You can only roll it back 10 blocks maximum. That's a complaint coming from the SV camp. And I'm like, well, hold on. Who wants, in the case that a reorganization were to happen, it's malicious, first off.
Yeah.
It's nothing but malicious. Are you telling me that you think it's a bad thing that they can't go more than 10 blocks deep? Like, what, you would prefer would you prefer that your chain was able to get rolled back 100 blocks? Like, it's such a weird criticism to have. Like, oh, your chain is it's safe to those 10 blocks, so that means you're not using real Nakamoto consensus. It's got to be totally unsafe.
Right, because Craig still has this mysterious surprise that he's going to drop on us late next year. So
18 months. It's always 18 months.
Yeah. So I mean, if we put protections in place now, he won't be able to surprise us 18 months from now. So
it is an interesting. It's made me really stop this whole experience with this hash war. The lead up and all of it has made me really stop and take stock. I'm now more than ever believe Bitcoin is full on a religion. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to. I think it's a good thing. I think that's a very good thing, because that means it's got the best chance of taking over the world, because strong religions tend to do that. And it's a stealth religion. That's the other part about it. Mm-hmm. That I don't think most people don't realize it's a religion, and it's also got the cover of like, oh no, this is an industry. It's it's financial assets, and it's like, okay, well, we'll just let you guys on Wall Street keep believing that that's what it is. That's not what it is. It's a religion, but it's really making me stop and sort of take stock of, okay, well then what does that mean? Because clearly it still is the thing that I value it for the reasons that I initially started valuing it, which is from my voluntarist libertarian bent. I believe that it's the best tool for getting us away from the state. Mm-hmm. But then I'll also wonder, what are we getting ourselves into? Because in a lot of ways, the state, certainly the U.S. state, the constitutional republic, was a way of getting us away in some ways from religion, from the divine right of kings, the church and the monarchy, hand in hand. That's why we have a separation of church and state. That was what the Enlightenment was trying to do, right? It was those values were trying to pull us into a more materialistic age of philosophy as opposed to religion. And I feel like this may be the wheel turning back, or turning all the way back around. And it's like a move from materialism to, like, Daniel Kravitz says it's like Narnia, right? Because what we're talking about is so fucking fantastical. Mm-hmm. Like, I was imagining this whole thing going down straight up Lord of the Rings, dude.
Yeah.
Like, all the different disparate groups all sort of coming together to defend Gondor, you know what I mean? I was like, this is fucking Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you bring up a really, really interesting point. And this is something that I've talked about, previously. And I don't know that I've ever talked about it on the show, but it's an interesting point that I think people don't really appreciate fully. And that is that a libertarian world is a much more complicated world than the world we live in today. Imagine, dig if you will, the picture of really having to have every interaction that you have with anyone controlled by some contract or agreement or negotiation or whatever. And people think, oh my God, I wouldn't want to deal with that. But there would also be mechanisms to make that much easier.
Right.
For example, let's say you go to visit somebody in their house, right? So upon entering the house, There is some standard agreement on, should such things occur within the house, like you slip and fall and have an accident or whatever, we establish liability. We don't rely on the state to do that. We actually have a personal contract that does that.
Right.
And, much like on Star Trek, when somebody went to a Ferengi household, literally it was a thumb scan at the door,
right.
Welcome to my house, everything here is mine, everything here is yours, blah, blah, blah. And then you do the thumbprint agreement.
Right. Yeah,
and you're agreeing to a standard document that, you can argue out in court later. But that's the thing about living in, a libertarian world versus a state-controlled world, is that you would take a lot more responsibility for your own legal existence. And it wouldn't be just left up to random chance and or the state. So something like crypto, people would be much more confident in dealing with private keys, dealing with these sorts of situations where you have, something is potentially risky, therefore I don't want any part of it. Well, literally everything is risky. You don't think about it because you live in a state-dominated world where you're not allowed to even, control those aspects of your life. But if you were allowed to control those aspects of your life, we would have, optimizations. There would be ways to do it that wouldn't interfere, as much as you think it would. It wouldn't be like going to a car dealership and buying a car and being there for 5 hours and filling out, 50 documents and all that kind of stuff. It wouldn't be that. It would be optimized and quick, and you would know, like, I'm accepting this level of risk. Here's the contract, whatever the document, and there's an understanding. But it is an explicit understanding, not an implicit understanding. So anyway, I just think it's a very interesting point that, people are all upset about, the risk and, the value of the currency has decreased significantly. But, I don't know that it should have decreased as much as it did. I think it should have been affected, certainly, by the hash war. But I think that if people were more familiar with taking care of their own levels of risk and having to mitigate those levels of risk, it wouldn't be such a shock to the system.
See, it's interesting what you're saying there, because I absolutely agree. But what I'm also seeing is that perhaps that's where the various, shall we call it, cultures of the different chains are perhaps an efficiency. Right? So the idea that people would group together based on the particular cryptocurrency that they used, and as we're already seeing, kind of, at least for people who are deep in it, if you say, okay, well, and Chris Rose asked this question at the at the Bitcoin Heretics, that it's like, well, where do you feel your primary allegiance is? And it's like, Dash people have a different, I think, outlook on things than Bitcoin Cash people, than BTC people, than Litecoin people, than Ethereum people. And I think that that's going to start diverging even more, and certainly more than now SV people. They're like the weird cult sect out there, right? They're like the Branch Davidians.
The Branch Craigians.
The Branch Craigians. They're the Branch Craigians out there. No, they really are. They really are.
Fork Craigians. Yes.
And I almost feel like it's that there's that, there's that level of, oh, well, I'm with somebody of my tribe. And in some ways that's an efficiency that gets you away from the Ferengi thumbprint. Because it's like, oh, no, he's cool. He's a Bitcoin Cash guy. Like, we're good. Oh, no, he's a Dash guy. Like, don't even worry about it, right? And I think that there's this idea of course it's within the SV camp, the sort of like one chain to rule them all.
Yeah.
And this idea that they keep saying that, well, of course there could only be one. Of course there could only ever be one, and it's like one money. Has there ever been one money?
No, not voluntarily.
This is what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't think human nature allows for one money.
No, if you're Caesar in Rome, then there shall only be one money, but no.
So I think that in that way, to be able to voluntarily choose, it's this weird combination of it's a totem. It's a totem. That's a very good way of describing it. Is it's like, here's this totem. That's why it's very much like a religion, because I think now we view religion as a voluntary thing. Back in the day, it certainly wasn't. Whatever tribe you were born into, because it wasn't a religion. It was like, it's not like you could ever choose to worship a god other than the gods that were of your tribe.
You had to worship, and you had to worship in their way,
yes,
per their prescription. And then, God forbid, like, a competing religion come in and take over.
You couldn't do that. No,
and then you just got to switch over, So, I mean, like, the missionaries, converting everybody to Christianity.
Did you hear about this? So there is this tribe.
Oh yeah, they killed the dude.
They killed him. Yeah. They're like in the Bay of Bengal or something like that, on an island, the Sentinelese. And this dude was trying to go out there illegally, because you're not allowed to bother this tribe of people illegally, to go onto this island to convert them.
There's got to be a law. It's like, why does there have to be a law? It's like, okay, there's this deadly tribe that will kill you if you go and see them. Oh, but my God will protect me, so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to convert them so that they worship my God.
Well, they shot him with an arrow, and he left, and then he came back. After he got shot with an arrow.
Wow.
He actually got... So this is what was interesting, and I was like... When I read the story, I was like, wow, this dude... God was actually talking to this guy, and he didn't listen. He was all up in his ego. The weirdest part about it was God actually gave him... So he had gotten shot at the day before he was killed, shot at by one of the sort of islanders, and an arrow pierced his Bible, and it was the piercing of his Bible, the Bible, that stopped the arrow from killing him. And he went back the next day. If that happened to me, I'd be like, God just told me. He told me I'm done here.
Yeah. See, this is the story of the flood comes, and people are trapped on the roofs of their houses, and the flood is and somebody comes by in a rowboat, and they're like, hey, do you want us to help you out? And the people on the roof are like, no, God's going to save us. And then somebody else comes by later, it's like, hey, can we get you down from there? And they're like, no, God's going to save us. And then the Coast Guard comes by in a helicopter and is like, please, get on the helicopter. And they're like, no, God's going to save us. Well, then the flood rises, the house washes away, everybody dies, and they go to heaven, and they're like, but God, we waited on you to save us. He's like, hey, I sent you 3 different people. Right. What the hell else do you want me to do? It's like, come on, take a hint. And this guy couldn't take a hint.
No, could not take a hint. Well, missionary has been throughout history a very dangerous job.
Sure.
For the reason that if you convert somebody out of a native it's voluntary. Religion is very much voluntary in our society. State religion is not voluntary. State religion is not voluntary. I mean, you got to pay the taxes. You got to have the Social Security number. You got to follow the goofy little laws. There's a lot of goofy little laws out there.
Oh, there's a ton of them. We should talk about those.
Yeah, we should. I mean, we had a show planned for that, and we could talk about it. There's a lot of goofy little laws. That's all religion. That's religion.
It is.
If you think it's not religion, well, I mean, Moses with the 10 Commandments, those are laws. Though how do you know a religion? How are you an adherent of a religion? Well, you follow the laws, the rules of that religion.
Yep.
Whether that's you go to church on a certain day, you tithe a certain amount, you pray in a certain direction, a certain number of times a day, you go to confession, you do whatever the fuck it is. You meditate in some special way. You don't eat certain foods, or you eat certain foods. You wear holy underwear or whatever, like the Mormons. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You engage in cannibalism in church.
Sure.
You drink the blood of your particular deity.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's so we would say that the old religions are all voluntary in our society. We've got a new one that's the state.
Yeah.
And
Even newer one that's crypto.
right, and that's what I'm saying is that people are not in the they've not even wrapped their heads around the idea that the state is a religion. Even though you look at the dollar bill and it's like, in God we trust, and an all-seeing eye, and you got all these. That's what I'm saying.
A lot of that's Masonic, though. I mean, so.
But I guess some could probably argue that that there is a. I mean, would you call Masonry a religion? Probably not.
It's not. In its original form, in the way it's intended, it's not. The whole purpose of even having any sort of religion involved in Masonry, it's not a specific religion. You are free to bring whatever belief system you have into Lodge. And the only reason that's even needed is to enforce the oaths. That's it. You have to believe in something, a higher power. Otherwise, the oaths that you take don't have any teeth. It's like, who's going to enforce it when nobody's looking? Well, if you don't believe that there's a higher power who is going to, keep you along the straight and narrow, then you can't take the oaths because they don't mean anything. So you take the oaths, based on your belief in a higher power, so that everybody trusts that you'll live up to your word.
See, so this is the reason why perhaps the maximalist idea that there will only be one coin is important. Like, the thing is, for me, I don't want any of these things to go away. I want every single one of these crazy, and they are crazy. They're absolutely crazy. But they well, that's me or you. No. But they clearly have value.
Sure.
They clearly have value, but I don't want any one of these crazy things to go away. But I think that having some of these ideals, like, there's the one chain to rule them all, I think in some ways that's useful, in the same way that the idea during the Soviet Union was we're all working towards the bright future, right? It's a utopian ideal.
Yes.
If you don't have a utopian ideal, it's hard to have a sustained belief system.
So you have to, okay, so there's several parts of that. Like, you have to have somebody who is willing to, endure the slings and arrows and kind of like serve as an example for everybody else. So if you have someone, who, let's say like in our community, like the libertarian community, we have certain members who really just blend into society. Yeah. We have jobs, we pay our taxes, we do all the things. We have our belief system.
Sure.
And we treat each other, very much in a voluntary fashion. But we still obey the laws, we own property. We partake in the system because it's not really a choice. I mean, if we're going to have any sort of lifestyle, we do that. Now, there are other members of our community, and they are more extreme in their views.
Yes.
And so certain people refuse to register with themselves in any way with the government. They do not have Social Security numbers. They don't participate, in the taxation system or whatever. So we do have people who are willing, based on their belief system, to endure the inconveniences that come along with those sorts of things. Major inconveniences. Yeah. But if they were not there as examples to kind of, say, wow, look what things, could be like, if we were not to ever use Google, if we were not to have a Social Security number, if we were not to do these particular things, I think those people are important because they kind of are the light at the very front of the column of troops or whatever. But yeah, it's the point you made earlier, and this is kind of a separate, not really a separate topic, but somewhat disconnected from what we were just talking about. The point you made earlier about converts.
Yep.
Nobody is more fanatic than a convert.
That's true.
You can have somebody who is in a religion their entire life, and they're just, I'm Catholic, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then as soon as they become Southern Baptist, oh my God, being
Yep.
a Southern Baptist is the best thing in
Yep.
the world. Everybody needs to be a Southern Baptist. To me, it's like the ex-smoker syndrome.
Yep.
Like you can smoke your entire life and just be cool smoking. Yeah, I'm standing outside. It's 4 degrees. I'm smoking. Everything's cool. But the minute you become an ex-smoker, you walk up to everybody standing outside smoking and you say, you really shouldn't be smoking. That is bad for you. Think about the children.
Well, it's like the vegan thing.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah.
one of my business mentors is an Indian guy who his family is in a Hindu sect called Ananda Marga, but they're vegetarians.
Sure.
But like him, his kids, his wife, they just don't eat meat. They've been vegetarians their whole entire fucking life.
It's not a big deal.
You'd never hear it from them.
No.
You go to a restaurant with them, you don't hear anything. They just find the thing on the menu that has no meat. You would never even know
Right.
that's what they're going.
It's just-
That's what they're about.
This person always orders a salad. It's so weird.
Well, they'll have maybe a soup thing, maybe
Sure.
like a bread thing, a pasta with just a tomato sauce as opposed to with the meat. And some a salad over here, and caprese salad or something.
But you don't get but I'm a vegan.
No, you don't get any
before
of that.
No,
you don't get
any of that.
anything about how great it is to be a vegan
Yeah.
or any of these things. You get none of that.
How their poop is so superior to yours. Yeah. You don't get any of that stuff.
None of that. And I think that is great for perspective. It's very good for perspective. And I think that what we have now, which is, and I think this is true with Bitcoin Cash in particular, is that you had a wave of people who found out about crypto and who came in like a lot in 2017 as it started to build up. So 2016 to now, right? But a lot in 2017. And Craig was able to grab a lot of those people. A lot of them. Because as you say, like, they're new converts. And they came in a time when there was actually politics in crypto. So it's like, for me, when I first got mine in 2012, there was no politics to speak of within the community itself, right? There was the political aspect of what this technology was. And I mean, there was Silk Road was out there, but it was still very hush-hush. There wasn't a lot of community. I mean, there were meetups and stuff like that, but there was nothing political involved. And even in 2014, when I started developing, it was like still no politics. The political aspect has been really since late 2016.
But why do you think that is? I have a theory, but why do you think that is?
I think that there was an influx of, what do we got? I think there was an influx of people. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We got to get a new one.
I think so. I think there was an influx of people when the price started to skyrocket.
Exactly.
And you had what the price skyrocketing created was it created a space for what I would call non-technical thought leaders.
Sure.
So these are the traders, right? And I think that you had this trader culture. So then that was when a lot of the meme aspect came about, the When Moon, Lambo, all of these sort of memes. Wrecked. That's when you had all the people sort of following each other, creating these weird Twitter. You got your crypto Cobains and your crypto. Why am I? We just said his name. Italian. Machiavelli. Crypto Machiavelli. You got crypto fucking Bart Simpson. You got all these different things coming in, and I think that it was, and the trolling beginning, and I think that a lot of it came out in the fork of BTC and BCH. I think that it gave non-technical users for the first time a chance for their voices to be heard and for people to give a shit.
Right, and it's all about the money.
Yeah.
When there's money, there's politics. And Bitcoin really wasn't worth anything for a lot of years. It was a curiosity. It was something that geeks did, on their computers, and it was it was very much geek culture. And nobody had any idea that it was ever going to be worth really anything.
Right.
And then the pizza happened. But even after the pizza, it was a long time before it had any real... I mean, I remember there was a Pork Fest where a dude was selling sandwiches for like 1.5 Bitcoin a piece.
Right.
You know, because the Bitcoin is like $4.
Right.
You know, so it's like once real money came in,
that's right,
then real politicians came in.
Right.
And by real politicians, I'm not necessarily talking about elected officials. I'm talking about people who play the game of politics.
Right.
And so we now have an environment where we are all being manipulated, whether we want to be or not, by the people that came in because there's money here.
Right.
And there's money to be made. And that there is this concept of allegiance to a coin is crazy to me.
But I think it's also inevitable.
It is to a certain extent. I mean, to me, like personally, I'm like, it's a tool, right? Like if I go to a store and they accept green stamps and I don't have any green stamps, then I'm going to go get some green stamps and I'm going to come back and buy the thing in the store.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, for those of you old enough to remember green stamps, I'm pretty sure it's not a thing anymore. But
it's not.
Say what? All right. So, okay, go Google green stamps and then you'll know what I'm talking about. So that's the thing, right? Like if the thing that I want is only available in a certain currency, then I just go get some and I come back and I buy the thing. And that's the way it is here. Like if we have, you know, a particular vendor who's selling eggs for Dash, and I don't happen to have any Dash at the moment, then I go over to Vin and I'm like, hey, Vin, you know, can we do a little deal here and I'll give you some Bitcoin Cash, you give me some Dash. Okay, good. And then I go back and I buy the eggs. Done. Like I don't have allegiance to any of the particular things.
I think that's it's much less common here. Mm-hmm. And certainly
because we're using it.
Right, we're using it.
It's a tool.
And merchants, every merchant, I mean, myself, the products that I sell, I'll take like a dozen different. It's like, what you got?
Yeah, exactly. That's the advantage.
What you got? I'll take it.
Yeah. So here, it's like it's weird to find somebody who only accepts one particular kind of digital currency.
Very strange.
Everybody takes as much as they possibly can.
Right. But it is. You can find people who only hold one particular type of currency.
Oh, sure. That's more common, I think. But that really, to me, is kind of like somebody who takes all of their spare money and dumps it back into gold. Because they really believe that gold is coming back, man. You know? And so, like, for me, you know, like, I'd buy, like, right now, it's a great time to buy Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah, it's a great time.
Yeah. So, you know, I might take any extra, you know, funds I might have and throw them back into Bitcoin because I see it as a good investment.
Right. Yeah, that I think something has changed because a lot of the people that I see who are most vocal, and I noticed it with this latest price drop. Mm-hmm. One of the things I noticed was how many of these people who are kind of vocal cultist types were not mentioning anything about the price drop. And that told me, oh, you don't actually have very much.
No.
You're not actually holding very much of this asset because you should be talking about the price. If you held anything significant whatsoever, you would be talking about the price. You're not talking about the price. You're still on that cult shit. So I know you're not actually holding that much. So then I'm like, whoa, that's weird. That's weird. You're in this space. You're getting value somehow, some sort of social value from being in this space, but you aren't even participating in the actual thing.
Right.
And that to me is new. That's the new part. To where it's like, well, wait, why are you here? I don't understand. In some ways, though, it's like, well, then that means there's something more going on. And that's what's really given me pause. What's given me pause is there's something more going on, which is exactly why this hash war has given me pause.
Yeah.
That these guys talk about no longer participating in Nakamoto consensus. Satoshi says in the white paper that a miner would find it more profitable. He ought to want to play by the rules because he'd find it more profitable than not playing by the rules and invalidating his own wealth.
Right.
And yet you have these individuals in the hash war who are saying we are going to mine at a loss. We are going to drop the value of our own wealth in order to what? I don't know.
That's because, Mr. Wayne, some people just want to watch the world burn.
That's it. That's what I'm saying. That is what it appears like to me. And it's a very but I don't that is what it appears like to me, but I think there is more to it than that. I think that there is a value in the cult that I'm not seeing yet. That is clearly, it must be there because these people are participating in it. So they're seeing something. They're seeing something that I'm missing.
So they're seeing something beyond being internet famous.
Yeah. Yeah. They're seeing, I think they're seeing something in this like long term. With the things that Calvin Ayre has been doing recently, you know, my opinion is starting to change about him.
Really?
Yes. I had thought that he was the puppet master.
Yes.
I am starting to believe that perhaps he has actually fallen under the spell of Craig Wright and is actually a true believer.
So this is super interesting because on the last show that we did 2 weeks ago, we had pretty much come to the conclusion that we had a clear thinker and we had a deep thinker. And since then, you have been reanalyzing, reconsidering.
I've been looking at everything that he's doing, everything that's going on.
And it's looking more and more like he is actually a convert, a true believer.
Yes.
I like this. Let's do this. Okay. So, all right. So we have this charismatic cult leader in Craig, whose ideas are crazy and not at all in alignment with, clear thinking or logical thinking.
No.
But yet he's able to convince people, powerful, rich people.
He just had a meeting with a member of Parliament. He just had lunch with a member of the British Parliament yesterday.
Yeah, so through just the power of his personality, he is able to
Which is crazy because I have
emotions.
interviewed him, I have met him in person, and I have spent time around him in person, interviewed him, and also, seen most of everything that he's done and written. And I am not impressed at all, I have to say. I am not impressed at all by him.
Yeah, so there is a just as we talked about last time there's a certain level of, oh, yeah, it's a nice car. I've driven nice cars. It's a nice hotel. I've eaten at good restaurants, blah, blah, blah. There's a certain level of that just becomes, passé after a while. Those types of people also become passé if you are exposed to them or if you're one of them. So if you're somebody who tends to influence others, when someone else who tends to influence others, if you meet, you're just like, okay, yeah, this guy's all right, yeah, whatever. That's the thing, right? Like when you take a Craig Wright, and I'm assuming because I've never met the guy, but if you expose him to mere mortals, they are like, did you ever see the movie Michael about the Archangel?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like, oh, you smell like cookies, you know.
Right.
And so maybe he smells
No,
like cookies.
that's how they act.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I've been around the cultists,
Yep.
and the way they talk about him and act about, I'm just like, really, seriously, like, I mean, this dude, like, really, this
then,
guy,
You know, and then the one girl is like, "Pff, you don't have that effect on me. And he's like, "Pff, I blocked you. Well, Craig blocked you. So there you go.
what I'm thinking, because I'm like, I've been analyzing and trying to figure out, like, how would, because see, this is what I know about seduction. What I mean, and I know a lot about seduction.
You actually wrote a book on
written
it.
the book on seduction. No, the thing about seduction is that seduction takes place inside the other person.
Yes.
Not inside the seducer. Right? So if you are practicing the art of seduction, what it really is, it's a form of interrogation
Yeah.
of the other individual to see where are the points
Yeah.
at which. So, and once you find those, you know exactly how this person can be seduced.
Yeah.
Right?
Where are the gaps I need to fill?
Where are the gaps?
There you go.
And so what I see perhaps with Calvin is a deep need for Craig to be Satoshi. And for him to be like this with Satoshi Nakamoto. And so he funded and sort of backed the whole Craig is Satoshi thing, Wired Magazine, all of that. That the money that came, that was that PR push, was all from Calvin. And when you look at it from the standpoint of, there you go. When you look at it from
I swear it's possessed.
from the standpoint of like the Khadijah model of like the
Yes.
first believer.
Yep.
What this really is all about is it's not all about it's all about an investment in Craig is Satoshi and a true belief that Craig is Satoshi and that I am willing to put up all of my, these people just don't believe, they don't understand, but I know that this guy is really Satoshi Nakamoto, and so therefore it is sort of like my job to protect this individual so that they can like spread their light to the world. And I see that he's, at this point, he's in so fucking deep with it that the cognitive dissonance is too strong for him to pull himself out.
I will add
Okay.
that I think that's part of it. But what do you find when you have, let's say, you know, a struggling rock star who's playing in bars and he meets a girl and she's got a little bit of money, but they fall in love, and then she thinks, oh, this guy is so talented, he really deserves, you know, to be on top. And it's not just, oh, I found the next greatest rock star, because then you're Simon Cowell and you're a hard ass and you're
Right,
like, you better perform or I'm firing your ass.
Right.
No, now it's love. And there's an aspect of this, and I'm not saying they're gay. I'm not saying there's like some, you know, thing.
There's a bromance. There's a bromance.
There is a need being fulfilled, you know, perhaps for both of them, certainly for Calvin, where he's like, he needs Craig beyond just Craig's usefulness as a potential Satoshi. You know, like that's part of it, but he's not being Simon Cowell about it. He's being love-struck, you know, fan in the crowd about it.
Right.
So what is that extra thing? What is Craig providing? What validation? What kind of, you know, inner like feels are being affected here, where Calvin is like emotionally attached?
I think there's a legitimacy thing, right? So it's like, how do I legitimize my wealth? Because, okay, yeah, he's a self-made billionaire, but there's a cloud over this dude's head. And it's like, I mean, he can't come into the U.S. I don't think he can even go back to Canada, which is the land of his birth. You know, I think there's quite a few countries where he just cannot simply even go.
If the Canadians are mad at you, you've done something bad.
So I think that there's an aspect of there's a legitimacy thing to where it's like, okay, I've made all this money, but like legacy. What is my legacy going to be? Is my legacy going to be that I made all this money and then, I mean, well, what is he known for? He's known for lavish parties with young girls. The dude's in his 60s or he's 57 or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's like,
he wakeboards. He's in great shape. He does yoga.
But is that a legacy?
No.
But is that a legacy? No, of course not. No. And so this is an opportunity to have the legacy of legacies. If Craig can be just remembered as being Satoshi. And so it's this sort of it's your project. You can't just because how many more chances is he going to get at a big legitimacy sort of opportunity? You know what I mean?
I mean, you're still looking at it from like he's getting something out of it. I agree. He's getting something out of it, but I also think that there is an irrational, emotional aspect to this that goes beyond, legacy. It goes beyond wealth. It goes beyond.
Well, they got to be friends. They got to be friends at this point.
They got to be not just friends, but I mean super tight friends where, he genuinely cares about this person. Like maybe a son. Like maybe there is some kind of like father-son, mentorship, some kind of
the ages are probably about right for that.
So maybe there is some kind of emotional bond that I don't think we've fully appreciated, but that to me is the only thing can explain what is actually happening.
Which is so it is weird to me that
drink faster.
Hold on. That somebody like
there you go.
That somebody like Craig Wright could form an emotional bond to anybody.
Well, and maybe it's one direction. Maybe it's unrequited love. I mean, maybe it is just Calvin who has fallen in love and not Craig.
Could be.
That happens all the time.
Could be. With what though? That's what I'm wondering.
Power of personality. I mean, cult leaders have this happen all the time. I mean, look at David
Koresh.
Koresh, David Koresh. The branch Davidians, Davidian from David. It was David Koresh's name. He had people so in love with him that they were voluntarily, like having him sleep with their daughters who were also in love with him,
right.
And they were like 10 years old. So
this is a common among cult leaders, yeah.
But he had such a powerful effect on his followers that
but he was a much more charismatic individual than Craig Wright. I mean, David Koresh was super charismatic.
Sure. And so was Charles Manson.
Yeah, he was super charismatic too.
Yeah. Now you look at him, 30 years later, and he's got a swastika carved in his forehead, whatever.
He's crazy now.
But back in the day, and so was Jesus. And so was every leader, right? If you actually sat in a room with them, you would be completely like overwhelmed by, oh my God,
I mean, I've known how many cult leaders have I known? I've known at least one legit cult leader who built a cult from ground zero.
All you need is one.
Yeah, and I have absolutely experienced being in, and it was interesting interacting with this dude. Because even in front of his followers, where he was like, you're a cool dude. They're all hero worshipers. They all worship me as a hero. But you and I can just talk. You know what I mean? But it was,
which is exactly what he needed to tell you because he read you like a book.
Right. so, well, I mean, it was the weirdest experience that I had with this dude was being in a house, and maybe there was 25 of his sort of cult that was in the LA area that showed up. at this house, and then him sitting and reading something that he had written for the occasion, a speech or whatever that he was giving, a sermon, I guess.
Sure.
That he's reading, and it stuck with me to the point where now I can catch it whenever it has happened after this. And this is probably in, what year is this? Probably 2002 or 3, maybe.
Wow.
A laugh. There's a laugh. There's this laugh that cult members will do to something that is, let's say, meant to be funny, perhaps by the cult leader, but is not really all that humorous. That might give you like a little like might give you that much like, clever. You know what I mean?
Yep.
To the normal person, they will be. There's this laugh, and I can't even do the laugh, but it's so off-putting. It's so strange, and it's infectious among them. It's like almost like the truest of the true believers the cult leader will say something. The truest of the true believers will have this laugh, this serious, like intense laugh, and it's like almost the signal for the other believers to start laughing in this way too long and way too like serious manner.
Right, because that's the signal that, so when the first person laughs in that insane fashion, and if nobody else is laughing, their first assumption is not, oh, that wasn't funny. Their first assumption is, I don't get the joke. I need to laugh so that I can show that I get the joke. You know, I'm one of the crowd. I'm one of the flock. I get it. Just like everybody else. That's what they're doing. They're just, it's a self-protection. It's a defense mechanism, because what they're doing is they're saying, no, I'm still part of the flock. I get the joke.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but that does explain why a cult leader can. It's mimetic warfare in that way, right? Like it's a form of hypnosis as well.
Totally,
because whatever was said at that point, that will be repeated by the other cult members amongst themselves as a way to say, I was paying attention.
Yep.
I'm part of the group.
I get the joke. I'm in on it.
Yep. Emperor's New Clothes, right?
Yeah.
It's the story of the Emperor's New Clothes. But I think that's why Craig and I've mentioned some of them, but like he's been crazy successful at his mimetics, to where I'm like, wow, is this dude this good, or is this he's just a charismatic cult leader and this is just how it goes? So like he's got this one phrase that he came up with, proof of social media, right? As opposed to proof of work. I first read this and I was like, oh my God, this is the stupidest thing I've ever read. Proof of social media. Because he was basically being like, oh, whatever people say on Reddit or Twitter, that's not... They think that that's going to make a difference, proof of social media, but it's proof of work. You have to be willing to work. And proof of social media, what I found so crazy about it, and I wrote this in a tweet, was I said, proof of social media is probably Craig's best meme. Probably. Because with that meme, he found a way to get people whose basically only economic activity in cryptocurrency is posting on social media.
Yeah.
To post on social media that posting on social media has no economic value. And he did it through a series of posts on social media.
That is magnificent levels of meta. It really is.
Where I was like, that is some high level NLP.
Yeah.
That's one where you got to just be like, whoa. You just did a social media post to explain to me why social media posts should not be listened to.
Right.
God damn.
Mm-hmm.
God damn, sir. I just find it fascinating.
It is. It is incredible.
I find it fascinating, but I guess there are, maybe making $1 billion doesn't make you immune to
Of course
a
not.
charismatic leader.
It doesn't make you immune to anything. I mean, Kurt Cobain killed himself, and that to me is, you have somebody who was at the top of his art form, who was very successful, had no financial worries. I mean, the guy had everything and stuck a shotgun in his mouth.
And had every expectation that would continue.
And would have continued.
It would have. If he was still alive today, he would still be top of the charts.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Well, yeah. Or he'd be some kind of,
mogul.
Yeah. Everybody would want to go to him for advice.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing, is like, you don't know what inner demons affect somebody, no matter what they look like on the outside. And, I've never been one to idolize anybody, right? Like, I don't have idols. I don't have people I look up to. I have people I respect. Sure. I have people that, I admire their accomplishments, certainly. But I don't let it go beyond reason.
Right.
And that is when you let your admiration of somebody go beyond the limits of reason, that's when you run into problems exactly like this. And, when you have people who are fundamentally flawed individuals, and Calvin Ayers is flawed as anybody else.
Well, I mean,
the
fact that he's constantly feels the need to post pictures of himself with 5 and 6 young women in bikinis on his yacht, it's like, dude, what are you doing?
What are you compensating for?
Like, what? Seriously, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's crazy what you're doing right now.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy. So you have to look at people's motivation and what gap, what hole is being filled.
Right.
Not only by the validation that he believes he's getting by taking these pictures, by, doing all the things, by, wakeboarding and blah, blah, blah. What validation is he actually getting from that? And what needs does he have that remain unfulfilled? And, where can somebody like a Craig step in?
So what do you think? What is your analysis? What do you think?
It's interesting because it could be anything. It really could be anything. It could be just that the guy has imposter syndrome, where he just feels like, whoa, I really lucked out and now I'm a billionaire. What do I do? Okay, well, I guess I get super fit and I, hang out with girls and I post pictures of my yacht. Right. Look at me, I'm valid. Maybe that's it. Or maybe he has a tiny penis. I don't know. It's a theory. Maybe he's,
that was just unexpected. That's
it could be, I mean, maybe he has, some super insecurity about something. Maybe he had
there's got to be an insecurity there to do the thing with it. It's 57 years old to have little 20 something year old girls.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Like, no.
Like, really?
So inappropriate.
Yeah. That's like, okay, so that's your life? Really? Like,
is that what you want your life? Is that what you want your life to be?
Right. Like, he's posting pictures and I feel sorry for him. Because he thinks that that's
me too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. He thinks like, oh, this is the pinnacle of achievement. I'm surrounded by young girls. Really? Can you have a conversation with them?
No.
Can you share your banking information with them?
I've been on a yacht with a group of them. There was no conversation.
No, these are not partners. These are not people that you go to war with. These are people that you put in photos to make yourself look good in your own mind.
Right. But to nobody else.
No, you've got a boat. Awesome. Great. Craig's got a car. Sweet. I had a Ford Escort when I was 16. I never showed anybody any freaking pictures. It's like, I don't get it. I'm completely baffled by this whole scenario where it's like, oh, look at me. I'm an old guy with all these young girls that I, really don't care to have a conversation with. And if you're legitimately talking to a 24-year-old with giant bimbo fake boobs,
there's something wrong with you.
And, she's like, literally, like, her job is to look pretty. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, if that's
fine.
what you want to do, like, if you got
It's
the
fi-
body,
Hey, it's fine for her because she's on a yacht.
Exactly.
Have a drink.
She's making money.
She's enjoying herself.
she is having a good time.
Yes.
You know. And I'm just like, and this, I don't want the audience to misunderstand. I want people to have, honest to God, I want people to have whatever career they want to have. And if they are fulfilled in whatever they're doing,
God bless them.
God bless them. Like, I want to do some, weird stuff too. Like, I want to engrave laser shit and, like, make crystals. That's what I want to do. That sounds like fun.
I like it.
Yeah, so, I mean, everybody has their things they want to do. And, honest to God, if you're 24 years old and you got giant fake boobs and a perfect body and, you look great on a yacht in a bikini.
Do it.
Do it. Like, I'd do it. Like, if I look good in a bikini, I'd freaking do it, Damn, I'm not even joking. Like, I will come in here in a Borat suit and everybody will have a good time. Now, but that's the thing. It's like, follow your dream. Do what you're passionate about. But if you're 60 years old, 57 years old, whatever, and what you're passionate about is showing people what your lifestyle is, that's, to me, that is morally empty, right?
Yeah.
There's an emptiness there. There is a lack of substance to this person because, okay, now you're a billionaire, you're 57 years old, and all you have to show for it are some pictures.
See, but this is where I think the Satoshi thing comes in. This is where I think the Craig thing comes in. Because it's about meaning. Because it's about meaning.
Right.
Right? To where it's like, well, we're all searching for meaning. We all want to find meaning in our life.
We do.
Right? Like, that's the most important thing. And I think it's even, there's that meaning vacuum is, I think, more pronounced. There was a period of my life when the period where I felt like, oh shit, like, this is when the TV show that I was on was sort of at its pinnacle. The amount of money that I was making doing that and sort of my other profession as well was at its peak, was weirdly enough the time that I was that there was the biggest vacuum of meaning in my life.
Right.
To where I was like, so what is there? Right. And it was like the height of the Vegas Super Club. I was able to go out, and like the weirdest part about it was I was able to go out and do bottle service at any club in Vegas, comped.
Yeah.
Free. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, next to people, like the table, whole table, bottles coming, and the people next to me are spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm able to get the shit for free. And that's just like where you're like, wait a minute. Like,
because you were an investment.
Right.
Because they saw you as, he's going to bring in other people,
right,
who are going to spend the money. So,
but but then shit gets bereft of meaning. Then you're like, well, what? What?
Why do you?
Why am I here? What am I doing?
Monks take a vow of poverty.
Yeah. No.
For the same reason.
Well, we've talked about being hungry, right? Being hungry is it gives you something, but I do think that there is. I think that you, in order to have a cult that is effective, you have to have a true believer who's high on the totem pole, mm-hmm, who has a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yep.
You have to have the rich. There's this movie with Philip Seymour Hoffman. He died, right? Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, I think he did. Yeah.
And Joaquin Phoenix. Is it called The Messenger? I think Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is kind of supposed to be like L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen this movie?
No.
It's, God damn it, it's good. Joaquin Phoenix is kind of this like drifter that, mm-hmm, sort of somehow finds himself on this boat that's been given to this L. Ron Hubbard character, mm-hmm, by hit by kind of a Calvin type of situation. Weird enough that it's about a yacht. Mm-hmm. Right? Is it the Messenger? Somebody in the chat will say what the name of this film is. But it's damn good. And the two of them, what's interesting about the two of them in that film is that they form this very, very tight bond. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's something about it. The other Chuck, what's his name? Chuck Palahniuk, the same author as Fight Club, wrote another book called Choke that was turned into a movie, where the protagonist in this, he's a sex addict. It's a great movie, by the way. He's a sex addict, but sort of his hustle is he goes to restaurants, makes himself choke on food, and then looks for somebody who looks like they're wealthy to like give him the Heimlich.
Yep.
And then that person ends up like constantly sending him money. Like he'll ask them for money. And it's this weird sort of thing that it's like the person who saves your life actually feels indebted to you because it was actually a bigger gift that you gave to them that they saved your life. And so they feel indebted to you that you gave their life meaning. Wow. It's a cool movie, dude. It's Sam Rockwell is the
I gotta check that out.
Is the protagonist in it. Yeah. It's called Choke.
I like that dynamic.
Yeah, it's super well, dude, this is the author of Fight Club, right? This is another book of his. He's super deep. But I think it's almost on that level. Mm-hmm. It's almost on that type of level to where it's like whether or not Craig is Satoshi, right? Whether or not he is Satoshi, he's a special individual.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's a legit cult leader.
Sure.
Legit.
There aren't that many of those.
No, he's a legit cult leader.
I'm with you.
That's no small thing.
No. That is a very special blend of inborn talent, innate talent, and developed talent, right? Like you have to to be certain things, right? Like to be a world-class powerlifter, to be a ballet dancer, you have to have a certain genetic makeup. You have to have something that is from birth, and then you have to develop that throughout your life. So he had, whatever gift it was from birth that contributed to his skills as a cult leader, the charismatic, magnetic kind of attraction, and then developed it because, once he recognized it, and, he probably recognized it at an early age. And then he just developed that. And, he has carried that through. And one thing that you always find with cult leaders is that they lie about their past, they obscure their past, they inflate their past. They claim to have done things that they didn't do. They claim,
he's got a lot of those.
Right. They claim to have accolades or, degrees or whatever that they never actually achieved. The other thing is that they make promises and predictions about the future. And they say this thing, like, Applewhite and the comet.
The Heaven's Gate.
The Heaven's Gate, yeah. And so you had the Hale-Bopp comet.
That was like the early internet, right? They were like the first internet cult.
Yep. And this, okay, so you see YouTube videos of the guy, and you're like, why would anybody follow this guy?
Yeah.
He is just some goofy-looking old dude, bald head, and whatever. Crazy looking, but yet he had so many followers that would actually come in, and they would just wear white robes or whatever. Guys would castrate themselves in this cult.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm fairly attached to my balls.
Yeah, I'm pretty attached to my balls.
I'm not going to cut them off. No. It's like, somebody can be charming and charismatic, whatever. I'm not going to cut my balls off. This guy convinced people to cut off their balls. And then told them that a comet was going to come, and it was going to be hiding the mothership, which was going to be behind the comet, and the mothership was going to land and take them all to heaven. And in order to get there, They
You
had to
had to
all
kill
drink
yourself.
this poison. So they
Yeah.
all drank the poison after cutting their nuts off. So you can't judge somebody's ability to affect somebody else just purely based on their physical appearance or whatever.
Do you think that some people are, what this is sort of tripping off for me is, do you think that maybe there is a cultist temperament?
Yes.
So
100%.
some people are susceptible to being cultists,
Yes,
to being sucked into a cult.
absolutely. Some people are. So I think it's to different. It's on a spectrum. I think there's a bell curve associated with this, just like everything else. And I think that some people are way over here and they're willing to believe anything, and some people are way over here and they don't believe anything. Right. So
Right, yeah.
for the people that will literally believe anything, they spend their entire lives going from religion to religion to religion to cult to cult to cult, looking for the answer, looking for the right thing, and then you have the people who are, like sports fans, like Cowboys, I got all those Cowboys,
right.
blah, blah, blah. They will get into fights. They will fight somebody over their sports team.
Absolutely.
This is insane.
Oh, you've got soccer hooligans, dude.
Oh my
You've
God.
got gang warfare over soccer teams.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right? But
That's a real thing.
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me, but it's because I'm way over here. I don't, I'm just like, whatever. I don't give a crap about
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
But, for the people that are super attached and have that internal need, that gap that needs filling, that hole in their soul, those are the people who a cult leader can latch onto, and you can spot them. I'm telling you what, it's like...
You're saying the cultists. You can spot the cultists, or you
I'm
can
saying
spot the cult leaders.
I'm saying the cult leader can spot the cultists. I'm saying the cult leader can walk into a room like a pickup artist and pick them out. Okay, that one,
Yeah,
that one, and
yeah.
that one are going
Right.
home with me tonight.
Right.
Just like a pickup artist.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
It's the same skill set.
Because I can definitely do that walking into a bar.
Absolutely. And you look for who's going to be receptive to your message, right? Like,
Right,
okay,
right,
let's say you and I are both pickup artists, okay? Let's play through this.
Okay, let's go ahead.
So you're going to walk into the bar and you're going to be like, bing, bing, bing. Those would not be the same girls I would go after.
No, probably not. No.
I would go after, okay, let's see. We got a crying chubby girl over here. We got a girl with glasses and a limp. That's my targets right there.
You're crazy, dude.
And so that's, you got to pick your target. And those cult leaders who are very good at their job.
I don't even. What's weird about it is, it's like a sixth sense. It's
It
like
is.
a spidey sense to where I'm like, oh yeah, you're like you're toast.
Yeah.
If I walk over there right now, you're done.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna enjoy myself right now because I know if I walk over there, that's it for the rest of the night. I'm not talking to anybody else for the rest of the night. So I'm just going to leave you over there.
Yep.
But I've had so many of those experiences, and they all come out to be so I get that it's like, I wonder if that's like a predatory instinct.
Imagine this.
I wonder if there's a predatory aspect to that.
Imagine instead of, so the pickup artist has two phases. There's the attraction, and then there is the letting go.
Yes, absolutely.
Imagine if you left off the second part. Mm-hmm. Imagine if you just did the attraction part, and then you had a maintenance part, right?
Well, that's a relationship, right? That's a relationship. But you can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that with a bunch of romantic relationships.
You totally can. There are actually, the polyamorous.
But I
folks.
mean, you can't do it with much more. Believe me, I've tried. You can't do it. About 4 is where it gets way beyond, because you only have so many nights in a week.
True, but what if it wasn't about romantic conquest?
See, that's the thing. Now I'm
What
hearing
if it
I'm
was
hearing you.
about-
I'm hearing what you're saying.
What if it was about, hey, I know she's sitting over here. I'm really not interested in, picking you up. I'm not, one of those guys. But what are you doing? Like, let's talk. Yeah, I want to be friends.
Right.
Let's hang out.
Right.
You seem cool.
Right.
Are you an engineer? You struck me as an engineer.
Right.
Where'd you go to school? Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's a great school. Right. Yeah, I knew so and so from that school. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing. If you can build up a cadre of these people.
See, and it helps if you're an asshole.
Sure.
Because if
You have to be.
you're an asshole to everybody else, but you're nice to them,
They feel special. Mm-hmm. They feel like, oh, wow, I'm validated. I feel special. Nobody
but
ever
see,
validates
you
me.
only get to feel special if you're willing to be a cult member.
Yeah, and God forbid.
Otherwise, no. If you're unwilling to be a cult member, I have nothing to say to you.
Right. That's part of the secret.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
you can't be nice to anybody but cult members. That sucks.
I will make you feel more special than you have ever felt in your entire life. But there are rules. Right.
What a fucking trip, dude. A Bitcoin cult.
Yeah, Bitcoin cult. So we are near the end of the show.
Yes,
so we
are.
should
We're about 5 minutes,
do
3
our
minutes.
wink.com recap.
You can go to vinarmani.com/wine, and that will take you to wink.com, where you can, what we would like you to do is we would like you to get a gift certificate of wine, send it to show@vinarmani.com. We will then use that to get some wine. You will become a wine sponsor. Be sure to put a nice little note onto that. Otherwise, definitely go ahead, whether or not you join the wine club, take the quiz. It's an awesome quiz, little quiz about your palate, and then it will tell you what types of wines you would be most likely to enjoy, which may surprise you, actually. You may have been drinking the wrong wine this whole time.
It could be. You've definitely been hanging out with the wrong guys. And I will say that if you send us wine, we will make you feel more special than you felt before.
And so what you should probably do is you should probably get a bottle for yourself, a bottle for us, and then we can share.
Drink it together.
We can drink it together on a Friday evening.
Because there's nothing better than drinking wine with a couple of smartasses on the internet in your underwear in front of YouTube.
Make sure it's clean. Clean underwear. Clean underwear only.
Clean underwear. And for you girls out there.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes, indeed.
Had a great time. Thank you, Dave. I guess what are we doing next week, or what are we doing? Bad Laws? What are we doing?
We can certainly do Bad Laws. So next week, I'm probably going to be on drugs. It's going to be phenomenal.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
because
yes.
Thursday, I'm going in for surgery to repair.
Are you coming? Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah. See, this is the manliest of all injuries. So I actually tore my bicep tendon lifting a very heavy object. It was phenomenal.
Super manly.
Super
If you're gonna get injured, do it like that.
That's right. So Thursday, I'm going for surgery. Friday, I should be fine. I might be a little loopy, but it's going to be great. We're going to do a great show.
We might take another snow day. We'll see. But either way, we'll figure it out. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we will see you again next week on Vin and Dave's Destination Unknown.